On vient de l'apprendre, un terrible accident d'avion en plein cœur de New York. Un avion s'est encastré dans une des 2 tours du World Trade Center.
Ce serait un attentat selon les médias américains à New York, au cœur de Manhattan.
Des attentats qu'on osait à peine imaginer dans les pires scénarios de catastrophe.
C'est une sorte de Pearl Harbor du terrorisme.
La panique s'est emparée du pays et principalement des 2 villes qui ont été touchées en premier.
Hello, my name is David Venadia. I'm a storyteller and I made the documentary My 9/11.
On se souvient tous de ce que l'on faisait le 11 septembre 2001. Ces images, on les a tous vues. Elles nous ont paru incroyables, voire impossibles. David en a été le témoin, caméra au point. Mais alors que des centaines d'objectifs étaient braqués sur la tragédie, lui a préféré se focaliser sur ces hommes et ces femmes qui y assistaient, sur tous ces anonymes qui, dans les rues de New York, étaient en train de vivre l'un des plus grands traumatismes de leur vie.
I love my parents.
The beginning of the documentary, I start taping pretty much just outside of my apartment. So what you're seeing there is pretty much what I experienced. It's just people were just anxious and upset, and I still didn't really quite understand what was going on. I just knew, could tell something really big was going on. I mean, just the energy of the city was different, and people were running around and commenting, and everybody's focus was to the south part of the island, and they were upset. You know, people were just upset straight away. It seemed unreal. It was unreal, and I wanted to be sure it was real. I had this weird desire to just get closer. I wanted to get closer, and I wanted to see what was going on. I also had the camera, so I think part of it was I wanted to capture what was going on. And so I just kept walking towards the towers, and psychologically, everything seemed very surreal. So it was almost like I was investigating, you know, like what's going on down here? And I had this sort of feeling of, I wanted to get to the bottom of it, you know, what's happening. If you've ever been in a weird situation where something happens to you that's unusual, there's a certain level of, maybe you could call it shock, but there's also a certain level of disbelief. Like, is this really happening? You know, and so when I was walking around, I was looking at the whole event from that perspective, that this is this major thing that's happened, and what's going on all around it, because that was fascinating to me. And ultimately, those are the things that bring back the memory. We've got that video of the plane crashing into the tower, but for most people, that's just where it ends, you know. So.
David n'a pas fait ce film de manière conventionnelle. Il n'avait pas de producteur, pas de diffuseur, il n'avait pas de cadre officiel pour structurer son projet. Il n'avait que sa caméra et sa volonté implacable de témoigner. La dure réalité qu'il a capturée ce jour-là s'est révélée à lui des années plus tard lorsqu'il a entrepris le montage de son film. Il a alors fait des choix drastiques de narration. Sans aucun commentaire, les images se succèdent de manière chronologique. Elles nous plongent au cœur de l'enfer, nous laissant découvrir petit à petit la réalité difficilement acceptable d'un événement hors norme. Toute la force de ce document vient du caractère amateur de ces images tremblantes et de ce son grésillant.
Plaza. I do every morning. I looked up from Fulton Street and I heard this whine, and crashes.
Big plane?
I didn't even, you know what? It was a plane. All this,
These are still in the city.
amazing. It's like you think, well, if I got the license plate, I just saw the plane go in and the whole thing erupted and we all started running back up Fulton Broad. We all stopped because it was so crowded.
Yeah.
And you look back up and, you just didn't know what to think of it.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, about 10 minutes later, we were just standing there. And then you started to see people jumping. Yeah. It was just from 60 feet floors up. It was just...
Really? They were jumping out of the building?
En sous-titrant les paroles de ces passants médusés, il n'a pas seulement comblé les lacunes techniques de son matériel, il a surtout souligné l'importance à ce moment-là de verbaliser l'événement. Comme si, pour les spectateurs impuissants, mettre des mots sur ce qui se déroulait sous leurs yeux leur permettait d'y faire face. Comme si les mots allaient leur permettre de comprendre et de ne pas sombrer dans la folie.
I didn't even realize the first tower collapsed until later on. I was heading west, and I heard, there was just a reaction that rippled through everybody on the street. So people sort of had a gasp of breath, or they screamed, and so I knew something was happening. But when I ran and went around the corner and faced south, by that point the tower had fell, and people were saying it fell, all the different things they were saying. But I didn't really understand. I thought just a piece of the top of the tower had fallen because there was so much dust down there and I couldn't see the tower anymore. But I didn't know the whole thing had collapsed at that point.
Another one hit from the back.
You seen it? They hit the both two different planes, one from each direction.
Well, I watched it on the news and I saw the 747 hit. The hole was so big on the south side that I knew it was going to go, and I kept saying it's going to collapse, and all of a sudden it just hit right over. Did the whole thing go down, or just the upper part?
Yeah, I can't tell.
Yeah, it's hard to tell. It looks like the whole thing.
After the first tower fell, as I was walking down, there was still just a lot of people in shock. And I say that in the description that I put on YouTube. Like, people were in shock, and that's something that a lot of folks don't understand or realize when they watch it, I think. And in fact, when people watch the video, they have their own reaction of shock, and you can see it in the comments. My inclination was to take out my camera and tape. That's how I dealt with the shock. Other people dealt with it by yelling, by making phone calls. And you see in that video, there's all kinds of reactions, somebody painting, so everybody deals with that shock in their own way.
Wow.
Can you believe it? The World Trade Center.
I know, it's crazy.
I mean, it's like something fucking like the craziest thing that could ever happen. But I mean, what's Bush going to do? We're going to have to fucking bomb some country. I mean, there could be thousands of people dead. If a 747 or 757, someone said hit the back. I went in the photography place after the first one, after 15 minutes, and all of a sudden I come outside, the second building's on fire. I didn't see that. But that came from behind. The first one just was a plane flying low. We would look at a 2-inch plane, it just went right in, didn't try to avoid it or anything. My photography teacher, I take pictures at IC, he says, always carry your camera. Last night I was taking pictures of Deepak Chopra. I went and saw him speak, and I had about 3 pictures in there. So this morning I took pictures of my dog in the apartment, we lived there, and then I went to take them developed. And if I had 10 pictures, I would have brought the camera with me and shot them on the way. I mean, I could have had it on the,
Now you'll never forget.
I know, now I'll always carry it, but I mean, it's a shame. It's very sad.
Well, good luck.
Yeah, you too.
His first reaction was, I wish I had my camera. That's how he processes the world, right? You could say his inclination was, I want to deal with this with my camera, like I did, right? I loved talking to him. He made me smile. Like, what the viewer doesn't see is me. I'm on the other side, smiling back at him, saying, yeah, I have my camera. I connected with him in that moment. So in the midst of all this chaos, here we are just having this very human exchange. It wasn't clear to people on the street how big this was, how many people died. None of that was clear. And again, we were all in shock.
Oh, there's so many dead people. I wonder what George Bush is going to do now. Now it's about time to fucking wake up and fucking stop fucking with other people and stop fucking with us. Evil.
There was definitely a sentiment at the time, and I think there continues to be, there's countries mess with other countries and get involved with other countries for good reasons and for bad reasons. And I think that she was expressing something that frustrated her, probably previous to the tower attack, and so that came out immediately for her. As other people had different comments too. I find it fascinating that she gets a lot of negative comments on YouTube. I'm fortunate that I didn't know anybody personally that was killed that day. So in the sense of a personal loss, it didn't get that close that I knew somebody that was taken away from me. But from the perspective of experiencing it and feeling it and seeing what happened and empathizing with people, I think I didn't deal with it for a long time. When I first started heading towards ground zero, there was a lot of chaos. People were running all over the place. People were running towards me as I'm walking towards the towers. Then I got to a certain point where the police wouldn't let me cross. They didn't want me to get near, they were pushing everyone away from ground zero. After I went back to my apartment, I went down the the east side. And for whatever reason, it was quiet over there. There was no police line. And so I could get behind the line. And then I could just walk in and get down to that area that you're describing. So then I'm in that area where there's dust everywhere from the tower's collapse, and there's papers and stuff everywhere. There were a bunch of other people like me, but there it was really quiet. If you've been in the snow when it's snowing and it's really quiet, that's what it was like there. So it was very strange and surreal. And everybody there was just kind of looking around, and we all just had this disbelief. And so picking up those papers made it more real. I remember picking up some papers and seeing, the name of a business and just connecting that this was just in somebody's office somewhere. And now it's on the street as trash. The other thing that's kind of strange about that also is that this giant building made of steel and concrete was pulverized, but the most delicate stuff, the papers in there, were not. And so it's just a strange thing. It wasn't until I was behind the line, they had created a police line that I got behind, and I was down near ground zero, and I'm walking around in the area where all the ash is and the dust. and World Trade Center 5 had collapsed, which I didn't realize is what happened. All the stuff, there was this loud sound, and I was getting pelted in the head by these little pieces of rocks and stuff. And so that's when it dawned on me, maybe I shouldn't be here anymore. You know, like this feels a little bit like too much now.
I called up my job. I said, look, I'm not coming in. Went back downstairs. They said, emergency personnel only on the ferry. So one of the chiefs was sat on the fire department and said, look, come with us. And we've been digging out bodies for the last couple hours. Let me tell you something. There's no trade center. They're gone. The World Financial Center is gone. Battery Park City, most of the windows are blown out. The AT&T building went down. We're gonna, don't even worry about it.
And what about Washington, the Pentagon?
What the hell do I know? I'm over here digging friggin' bodies out of rubble. They told me to go home and be back at 6 o'clock, so here's what's left of the trade center.
New York had a little bit of a reputation for maybe being rude or fast-paced and impersonal. And so during that time, during that day, and then in the weeks that followed, people were very compassionate. And not just folks in the city, but people from all over the world and all over the country really sent messages and sent care packages, and people came to the city to offer help. And so I like to think that when people like us that are, regular people, when something bad happens that we can clearly see is unusual and unwarranted, hopefully, right? We don't want these things to be happening. Then we are compassionate and we will help each other and come together.
They're shooting. They're driving around shooting. They're medic. They arrested 2 Iranians. Oh, shit. They're shooting. I'm serious. You should have saw me running.
I told you, did you hear that they have they caught a bus? Like a buck or a truck?
A van full of bombs, right?
Oh no, somebody said there was a truck that had a picture of the World Trade Center with a plane flying into it. They caught it.
Three at the same time.
Under attack?
Chicago, Pentagon, Chicago, the Pentagon, and that got hit at the same time.
Les images capturées par David ce jour-là cristallisaient déjà les problématiques auxquelles nos sociétés ont fait face durant les années qui ont suivi. Tout était déjà là en substance, notamment cette forme d'incrédulité qui, de par la complexité de l'opération et de ses conséquences géopolitiques, avait tendu inévitablement vers les théories du complot les plus obscures. Des théories extravagantes, il y en a eu des tas, et cela dès les premiers jours après le drame. Des images improbables sont vite apparues sur la toile, devenant pour certains des preuves irréfutables. Pour d'autres, simplement des curiosités étranges, mais rigolotes.
Bonjour! Alors, je vous l'avais dit la semaine dernière, dès qu'on montre ce bouquin, hop, t'as le FBI qui arrive, quoi. Alors, j'ai trouvé un truc, vous prenez une carte anniversaire, vous la glissez dans la version officielle, et là, magique, tu vas voir, hop! Et là, ça les amuse, tiens.
Dans les mois qui suivront les événements, des contestations de la version officielle seront reprises par certaines personnalités françaises.
Si vous avez la capacité d'avoir un peu de recul aujourd'hui, un petit peu moins d'émotion et peut-être un petit peu plus de sang-froid, vous allez très 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 vite vous rendre compte que quelque chose est mauvais, quelque chose ne va pas.
À ce moment-là, sous leurs influences, je me suis moi-même perdu dans la complexité des contre-enquêtes qui avaient été publiées. Noyé dans un flot de détails, et n'étant pas équipé intellectuellement pour les comprendre véritablement, je me suis plu à croire ces théories, car finalement, rien n'est plus jouissif que de penser que nous sommes les seuls à détenir la vérité.
I made the website pretty soon after. Well, originally, NYC Stories was a project that I was working on when I was in New York, and it was just going to be a place to collect stories about the city. And then after 9/11, people were just for several weeks, that's all anybody talked about. And you would meet a stranger or meet a new person in a social setting in the city, and they were talking about their experience of 9/11. That's why I called the video My 9/11, because this was my experience, and this was the thing that I would share, with people.
Excuse me, you got a spare match? Sorry.
Oh, take a picture for me. What happened?
Yeah. All right. Let me make sure I got you. Yeah, I got you. Thank you very much.
See you later.
Good luck to you. Oh, scare. Careful.
That nigga's judge, you know what it was? He said he bags, he gave going inside the little thing.
But I didn't deal with the video footage for 10 years. I put it in a box, and I didn't want to have to deal with it. It just seemed sort of overwhelming. And I think it was really when the 10-year anniversary was coming around, I knew that there was going to be a lot of stuff out there, and I wanted to put something else out, something in that mix that wasn't sensationalized maybe, or I guess I don't know, I felt like it was time to share what I had captured. When I had to edit it, I really had to process the whole thing. And so that was, that was kind of difficult, to go through everything. I think another reason I waited so long to put the documentary out there and let people see it is because it's so emotional, and particularly on YouTube especially, I think people are really critical and sometimes just crass and mean. And so I talked to different people, and I taped different people that were out on the street that day, and then I put them on the internet now, and I put them into history in a sense, right? I've captured this thing that they're saying, and I feel bad about that sometimes, because I worry that I've taken this person and in a raw moment and captured it, and then when people attack that person, that bothers me, because again, that person was having a reaction. On the one hand, I apologize to all of those people. I put them in this place, and on the other hand, I'm thankful to them because they helped make the day something we could get through together, and it made it maybe something we could overcome. Made it more human. So after 9/11, I had this feeling of I wanted to live a more purposeful life. It really made me realize that I'm fortunate, and I have a responsibility to do good things. We share humanity. We share this planet. We share an experience, which is our lives. And there's sometimes in the comments and then when people watch, there's a desire to compare things. Who has it worse, or which country is better, or why it happened, or anything like that. My hope is that I wanted to try to take all that stuff out of the equation and just talk about us as people. And that I think a great majority of people are good people, and we're trying to live a good life, and hopefully we can do that all together and be good to each other.
Près de 3000 personnes sont mortes ce jour-là. Confrontés à l'horreur de la situation, de nombreux individus comme David ont développé un état de stress post-traumatique. Officiellement, les chiffres portent à 75 000 le nombre de New-Yorkais qui ont été diagnostiqués de la sorte. Mais si les dommages psychologiques engendrés par de tels événements sont difficilement quantifiables, ils ne se limitent pas à l'échelle d'une ville, mais de tout un pays, et parfois même jusqu'à l'ensemble de la civilisation.
C'est en effet avec une immense émotion que la France vient d'apprendre ces attentats monstrueux, il n'y a pas d'autre mot, qui viennent de frapper les États-Unis d'Amérique. Et dans ces circonstances effroyables, le peuple français, je tiens à le dire ici, tout entier, est aux côtés du peuple américain.
Cette peine immense que nous pouvions ressentir nous aussi, de l'autre côté de l'Atlantique, ne s'est pas éteinte dans les années qui ont suivi le 11 septembre 2001. Elle était peut-être moins vive, elle était peut-être endormie au fond de nous, mais elle était pourtant là, intacte. Et c'est de manière tragique que 15 ans plus tard, elle s'est réveillée lorsqu'à notre tour, nous fûmes frappés par la barbarie.